What's up guys, welcome to Film and TV Weekly, the weekly film and TV show giving you all the top news and views that you need to know. Yet another Star Trek series is in production at CBS All Access, this time focusing on Michelle Yeoh's Captain Georgiou from Star Trek Discovery. Variety's Joe Otteson says that the show will focus on Georgiou at Section 31 working as a spy. This all sounds pretty cool to me. I think a Section 31 TV show will be really interesting to look at. They were first introduced, I believe, in Deep Space Nine, and they've been a interesting and intriguing element of Star Trek that hasn't quite been explored in that much detail. My one concern is that there's a lot of Trek going on right now, and if you remember rightly, Enterprise, the last Star Trek TV show, ended primarily because of franchise fatigue. Everyone was growing tired of Star Trek. We are kind of at risk of getting in that territory again, I think, if it continues going this way. But with the recent news on Star Trek 4 possibly being shelved or in limbo or cancelled or whatever you want to say, we might have room for another TV show. Exploring territories already visited by Indiana Jones and Lara Croft and Tomb Raider is the ever problematic, constantly in development hell video game adaptation of Uncharted. Justin Kroll at Variety states that 10 Cloverfield Lane's Dan Trachtenberg is now set to direct the adaptation starring Tom Holland. He replaces Sean Levy as director, who dropped out due to scheduling conflicts. I really like 10 Cloverfield Lane, it's my favourite in the Cloverfield franchise, so this does give me some more hope for the Uncharted film. And of course now Uncharted is entering truly Uncharted territory because it looks like the film's actually going to happen. When one Mission Impossible film isn't enough, what do? You do 2 Mission Impossible films. Hell, even 4 if you count the last 2 that you already done. Christopher McQuarrie has signed on for 2 more Mission Impossible films after the success he had doing Rogue Nation and Fallout. This time he'll be shooting them back to back. This is from Boris Kitt at The Hollywood Reporter. From running along the outside of a building, jumping off buildings, diving out of planes, almost drowning, crashing, falling off mountains, what will actually kill Tom Cruise? Writer and director Christopher McQuarrie better have some good ideas because I just don't know how you top the last few films. Yep, there's another Spider-Man film coming out this year, and questionable marketing has already made this film very problematic because it has spoiled one of the other biggest films of the year, Avengers Endgame. I won't go into the details because spoilers, but this film's trailer has perfectly summed up the problems of having 2 studios working on one film. Here's an analogy for you. Have you ever heard of having too many chefs in the kitchen? Well, it turns out one chef put in an ingredient that the other chef didn't really like. This resulted in the dessert being tasted before the main meal. Could I have came up with a better analogy? Probably. When there's something strange in the neighborhood, who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters! Entertainment Weekly's Anthony Breznican says that Jason Reitman, the son of writer and director Ivan Reitman, will be making a new Ghostbusters film set in the world of the original movies to be released in 2020. This is a case of I believe it when I see it, because Ghostbusters 3 has been long in development hell for, well, since Ghostbusters 2. And yeah, we did get the reboot with all the women, and that was just a terrible film. Had nothing to do with the fact that they were all women, it's just a bad film, bad direction, bad writing. There's no word on the cast of this film yet, although there's rumours that it's going to star children or teenagers, but it also has to have the original cast members in there, doesn't it? Because why else would you do this? The saving grace here is Jason Reitman. He's a good filmmaker, I've seen some of his work before, so yeah, I'm interested in this, but again, I'll believe it when I see it. Continuing the trend of live-action remakes of classic Disney animated movies, we now know that The Hunchback of Notre Dame is getting the live-action remake. Hell, it's not as if these films are beloved by many fans of all ages, and they're not considered some of the best animated films of all time. So why not do it? Over at Deadline, Mike Fleming Jr. says that David Henry Hwang is writing the musical adaptation with Josh Gad set to produce. There's no word yet on if Gad is expected to star as the titular Hunchback. Gad would be a great choice for the lead role. He obviously doesn't have a hunchback, nor is he as ugly as the character, but special effects and makeup can fix that. I'm just not entirely sure if I need or want this. The original Hunchback of Notre Dame is a perfectly fine film, but it's not one of them Disney animated films that I would consider one of my personal favourites. Here's a dry, boring story about ratings and classifications. Enjoy. The BBFC, the body responsible for film age ratings in the UK, is making some changes, specifically to sexual content in films, making the age rating higher. In short, films featuring rape will now have a minimum rating of 15. Strong sexual references and the language of pornography, whatever that means, are now a minimum of 18. So this is a boring story and I apologise for that, but it is quite important. The changes here make some sense, especially when it concerns rape and sexual violence, because you've got to be careful with how that's portrayed in film and on TV. I do think there's an argument, however, that it's more important how they're depicted rather than the simple fact that they're depicted. So a film that actually examines the effects of rape and sexual violence on a person rather than a film that simply shows rape for shock value or it's a disguised action scene will be far better. Also, it's 2019 if you haven't realised. Should we still be looking down at sexual content as something disgusting and wrong and not to be seen at all? Or should we be embracing it a bit more? I think there's a bit of a discussion and an argument to be made there. Of course, if it's rape and sexual violence, you don't want to be encouraging that at all. Bang! Just like that, we have a trailer for John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. As expected, it's action-packed and visually stunning. Here's hoping it's just as good as the last two, because anything less would be really disappointing. So here's a question to end the show on. If John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum is good, will John Wick become one of, if not the greatest action trilogy of all time? And I mean pure action. Think about it. Thanks for watching Film and TV Weekly. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've been your host, Grant Burton. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @the_Grant Burton. In the meantime, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, gave me a thumbs up, like this video, posted a comment and some feedback about any of the topics I've discussed today, and share this across social media. Help me grow my audience. It'd be much appreciated. But that's all I've got for this week, so thanks for watching.